All right. I am so glad that you are here with us today. I am Dayna Murphy. I'm the executive director of Brave Coalition Foundation, and we have kind of done a little bit of a pivot in the last couple of months and done some research, connected with some people, and put our feelers out there to bring value to our community during this time. And so one of those added values and resources and people who we connected with is Kate Dilligan. And Kate is the founder and CEO of Cooler Heads. And I'm so glad that we connected and we're doing this today. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Dayna. It's great to speak with you.
So let's just jump right into it. I know you have a personal connection to this mission. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey with breast cancer?
Sure. So I found a lump in my breast in late September of 2016, went and had it biopsied. We weren't really sure what it was. There's no history of cancer in my family. And so I got that phone call from my OBGYN that did the initial test that, yes, it was cancer. And so I founded this company based off of my experience sitting down at the medical oncologist's office for the first time. So I knew I had cancer. I just didn't know how bad it was. And I was hoping this could be something that could be resolved quickly via surgery. Like, I had no idea. And again, I had no history. And sitting in that office and being told that I was looking at chemo and then surgery and then radiation and then follow-up therapies for years, my life changed. And all of a sudden I started thinking about, well, how do I do this? Because at the time I was working in tech and I had this really busy life. And all of a sudden I was a cancer patient and all of those things that I was working on and that I was doing were out the window. And that's why I founded Cooler Heads. We're building the evidence-based products that cancer patients and survivors need to manage the most common side effects of treatment. And so that's the hole that I identified, because whether it was chemo or surgery or radiation, or now I'm on tamoxifen, what actually works? What actually is consistent with Western medicine? Because you go onto the Facebook groups and you see all kinds of competing information, and you ask your doctors and your nurses who are fantastic and who are super invested in making you healthy, but they're not in the weeds on that. And so what we see is an opportunity for us to build a platform where we can be talking to patients, and not just with breast cancer, but to all cancer patients, and then into survivorship, and making sure that they know for these common side effects, here are things that are proven to work, that are safe, that are effective, and that when you show them to your doctor or your nurse, there's nothing in them that's counterindicated against treatment.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your story. So let's talk, you're talking about the technical side of it. Let's talk a little bit about the science behind Cooler Heads and kind of what you guys are doing to help patients.
Sure. So our first product is a wearable device that will let chemo patients keep their hair. And if anybody is watching this and they never heard of cold cap therapy, hey, I was right there with you when I was sitting there in the doctor's office. And so the way cold cap therapy works, it's been around for over 20 years. There's a lot of medical literature that demonstrates that it's safe and effective. It's essentially medically induced hypothermia for your scalp. So hair follicles and hair cells are fast growing the way cancer cells are. And chemo discriminate. It's just going after it. It's just going to punch everything that's fast growing in the body. And that's why chemo is so devastating. That's why all your hair falls out. And not just the hair on top of your head, but your eyebrows and all of your hair falls out. And if you can protect those hair cells before, during, and for a few hours following each chemotherapy infusion, they don't absorb the chemo, and that preserves the patient's hair. There's a lot of other things that patients should do that are best practices about not stressing the hair as they're going through chemo, and what they should do in between chemotherapy sessions. But at its core, fundamentally, that's what cold cap therapy is. And when I went through treatment, I spent, I kid you not, Dayna, $8,000 to keep my hair. And the technology that I was using literally are gel caps that are cooled with dry ice that are switched on and off the patient's head every 20 to 30 minutes because the body's temperature warms them up, and it's gel caps. It's like gel packs. It's very similar to what you would use to cool drinks in a cooler. And they because of the body's temperature. So you're constantly switching them on and off. So I had to pay somebody to come and administer them for me, which is crazy, right?
I mean, very inconvenient in a time when it's uncomfortable, you don't feel well, and like, yeah, that is crazy.
No, it's bonkers. It's totally bonkers. And there are 2 devices that are cleared by the FDA to do this therapy at an infusion center, but very few infusion centers offer them because it doubles the amount of time that the patient is there without increasing any reimbursement for the infusion center. So if you think about it, because I said, before, during, and a few hours following each treatment, the infusion centers want to get people well. They want to be treating patients. And so if they just have somebody sitting there doing scalp cooling, they're not treating another patient, and they're also losing out on those reimbursement dollars.
Right.
And so what we've done, and it turns out that our approach is actually entirely consistent with the needs of the COVID age, as we've developed a portable self-administered device that is shipped directly to the patient. We teach them how to use it. They bring it to the infusion center. They put it on by themselves. And then because of this miracle of technology that maybe you've heard of, it's really cutting edge, called a battery. When they're done with chemo, they unplug the device and they just wheel it with them like a small wheeling briefcase, like what you see an airline pilot use, and just wheel it out to the car and continue to wear it on the way home and finish the therapy at home. Because what we're seeing in this age of COVID, and my heart goes out to anybody watching this who's going through cancer now, what is time, is patients are being told that they can't do cold cap therapy because you can't bring a helper with you to switch the caps on and off, because let's not add germs to a room full of immunocompromised people. And then also for the patients that whose infusion centers might offer the dry ice ones, well, they're being told that we don't want to encourage this because we want you, patient, to get out of the infusion center so you can be healthy. And so we're about a year away from launching, but unfortunately, it's very likely that COVID will be here. Even if there is a vaccine, it's just going to take a long time to get 330 million Americans inoculated. So our thought about this device and making it patient friendly and making this essentially like patient empowerment is actually really well suited to the current state of things.
Yeah, you guys took out both of those barriers that are created for the other companies doing this. So you kind of talked about what sets you apart. So what sets you apart, what I'm hearing you say, is that it is mobile. It is something that is teachable, that a patient can feel empowered and confident in doing on their own.
Yes.
It's definitely something, like you were saying, in this time right now where guests are not available or are not able to go into an infusion center and sit with a patient, which is also bonkers to me and very sad. They're able to do this on their own and then be able to jump back into the car and continue what do you call it? Like a treatment?
Yeah, just continue the therapy as they travel home. And then when they get home, forgive the bad pun, but you can quite literally just Netflix and chill. Like, you're at home, you plug the device back in, it'll automatically turn off when your treatment is done, and you just store it for the next time.
Go ahead.
Well, and we've developed a digital experience to complement this. So the app isn't going to control the device, but we're building digital experience to make sure that not only can patients, not only look at the device to check the temperature, the flow rate, and how much longer they have, they can look at that on the app, but we're also going to be sending them reminders about what days they should wash their hair, reminding them to bring the device to chemo. Because for the 4 months that I went through chemo, so I did 8 cycles of AC, 4 cycles of AC and 4 of Taxol, so 8 cycles total. Their chemo brain was very much a thing. There really is that cognitive impact of being poisoned on a regular basis. And I would sometimes go to chemo and I would have forgotten to take a medication that my doctor had told me about. I'd be like, do I wash my hair today? Do I not? Like, what do I do? And you're kind of in a fog. And so it's 2020. Why can't we create this seamless digital experience to really coach patients? And to your point about patient empowerment, make them feel confident that they're doing all they can to have some control over how they go through chemo. Because that's really what we view our device is about. It's about privacy, it's about agency, and it's about identity. It's about controlling who knows who you're sick, because I didn't want to be othered. And that's a theme that I hear from chemo patients, both men and women, is you want to tell people you're sick who you want to tell that you're sick. You don't want to advertise that to the outside world.
Yeah.
Agency, that goes back to speaking to my experience of, having this busy life. And I'm sure this is echoed by anybody who's been diagnosed with cancer. And now all of a sudden you're a cancer patient and your life is out of control because your life is now about your disease. Mm-hmm. And so we're giving patients some control back. And at the end of the day, this identity piece is having you recognize who you see in the mirror when you brush your teeth in the morning. That's really important. It was really important. It was very important for my emotional well-being. Yeah. And that's why patients are paying thousands upon thousands of dollars for this therapy. And one of the things that I should have mentioned is we're taking this incredibly expensive therapy and we're making it accessible. This will be less than $1,000 for the duration of treatment. So we're also taking something, and it will be cleared by the FDA. So it'll be available for insurance reimbursement, because I really want to evangelize and democratize cold cap therapy. Because I've talked to so many patients that were like, well, I can't afford it. It's not for me. It's too hard to do.
Right.
That's garbage. People should have the choice. And if they don't want to do it, totally legit. But people should be like, well, here's a relatively low friction, low cost way I could do this. And now I have a real choice as to how I want to go through this.
Yeah. And that's kind of something, that we are becoming more passionate about with this pivot that we've been doing, is really educating our community of survivors about their options, about what resources are out there. And we want it to be accessible. We want it to be, able to where anyone can have that option. They don't have to worry about putting food on the table or, looking in the mirror and seeing who they want to see. So I am so this is amazing. It's so empowering to I don't know. I talk to patients all the time, and this is something that is an emotional toll. It takes an emotional toll on them to lose their hair. So
absolutely. It's grateful. One of the things that I think back to is, so I did surgery basically a month after I stopped chemo, like 5 weeks to a month after I ended chemo. And one of the things I would hear from my medical oncologist and then from my surgeon repeatedly is, you don't look sick. And people at work didn't know. I was able to work. I had a job where I was able to go into work and protect myself going through chemo. And I mean, my hair definitely thinned. It did look different, but I was able to control the narrative on that. And that was really important to my being able to get up and compartmentalize the fact that I was, going through a very scary time. And, we never exactly staged it. It was either stage 2 or stage 3. I was right on the cusp. We're never going to know exactly where I was, but I don't have a family history of it. It really came out of left field and was a gut punch. And I know that any cancer patient, whether or not you have a family history or not, that terror of getting that notice that you're sick now. Yeah. And how do you go through that? And how can you still feel like you're Kate Dilligan, that you're Dayna Murphy, that you're more than just a patient? Yeah. And that's what I want to do.
And like you were saying, the control factor, I know that patients feel totally out of control in that moment. And so giving them back that opportunity to re-seize a little bit of control over things that will make them feel better, that's just so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what the patients that we've been interviewing and talking to about our device have been saying routinely. And, we're starting with cold caps, and we'll be adding the other suite of products because I had so many digestive problems. I really worked hard and I was able to find a great solution so I wouldn't have radiation burns. Mm-hmm. I was very grateful. I didn't have the challenges of peripheral neuropathy, but there's so many challenges that cancer patients have. And CVS is not the place to find these products.
Right. So where can we find Cooler Heads? Let's talk about that.
So we are about a year away from launch, but for call to action, I'm Kate at coolerheads.com. You can go to our website, coolerheads.com, and I would love to hear from patients and advocates out in the space. We are actually right now, we finished up our device, and we're moving into this next phase of doing what we're calling verification interviews and walking people through the instructions, asking them for their feedback. So, I'm based in Southern California. But would love to, Zoom and talk to patients and advocates from other parts of the country and start getting your feedback on our device, because this is really our time that if we need to make adjustments to it, this is the time to do it.
Yeah, great. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being on today. I did pop the Cooler Heads website into the chat so people can find you through that. And I'm excited to hear when you're cutting the red tape and we're going to get these out into the public.
I know. And I love working with Brave. You and Christine, you're really building such an important organization that knowledge is power. And I mean, in a way, that's what we're doing at Cooler Heads. And by saying like, hey, we vetted these products, like we're having, doctors and medical professionals validate that all this is safe and effective. Here's the information that you need to know. Here are things that you can do. So I think the work that you guys are doing is so valuable, and pleased to be able to have you as collaborators and partners in crime, partners in cancer.
Yes. We're kicking cancer's butt. All right. Well, thank you so much. Everyone, go and check out Cooler Heads on coolerheads.com, right? Coolerheads.com. And we will talk to everybody later. Thank you so much, Kate.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dayna.
Have a good day.
Bye.